this show is about animals. When I hear that music, I feel like a tree blowing in the breeze. It is your boy, the mellowed out nonprofit sector connector, coming at you not from the attic, but from an undisclosed, all right, I'll disclose it, a location. This is the PAL show. This is the Professionals and Animal Lovers show. I am Tommy D, the nonprofit sector connector, doing my job, wearing the mask like we do when we're not in the attic, or at least when I'm not. I don't know if you guys are in attics or not. I'm in an attic a lot. You might know that. So I'm actually doing day number 17, 60 days of service. So I'm on location with my friends at Little Flower, way out east on Long Island. And I have the opportunity to be on location because right after this, I'm doing a day of service. So it is the Professionals and Animal Lovers show. I am Tommy D. Shout out to my friends Alexa and Nyrikia for hosting me and let me do the show when I'm on the road. And I don't come with a lot of needs. I'm not needy. It's not like I go on the road and I need like green M&Ms and shrimp cocktail and stuff like that. I just needed a spot to plug in my laptop and do the show. Let's get into it though. This is the Professionals Animal Lovers show. We're here every week, Wednesdays at 2 p.m., because we want to amplify the message that people who work with animals, who advocate on behalf of animals, that the bond between these individuals is incredibly strong. And what you ever heard that phrase, you want to be the least smart, or I'll even go further, the dumbest person in the room. So you surround yourself with people who know much more than you. I don't beat up on myself too much, so I don't think I'm dumb. I just think I don't know most of what we're going to talk about on these shows, and I'm learning every week. So I always try to keep us. There's this cool yin and yang between Valerie Heffron and myself, as far as like, Val, wait, I don't get it. I don't get it. I don't get it. So there's a lot of that, but I'm getting a little more each week. And even in just preparing with John DiLeonardo, our guest today, on our call yesterday, I learned a bunch. So I usually say, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, as kind of as an like a as a shout to circus guy, the ringmaster. I wore a breakfast suit and a top hat, a morning suit they call it, not tails, but a morning suit on my wedding with a top hat, like a ringleader would do. But I wanted to say that, and then John's going to talk this. I know we'll talk about circuses and how some circuses have evolved and others just disappeared. And we talk about animal advocacy. We talk about feral cats. We talk about dog rescues. In fact, I think I made a comment last night about crocodiles when we were talking with John for the show. So let's get into this. This is PAL's Professionals Animal Lover Show. I am Tommy D, the nonprofit sector connector, my comrade, my teacher, my mentor in all things animal advocacy, my pal, Valerie Heffron. What's up, Val?
Hi, that is one heck of an introduction. Um, I can assure you that I'm in the same boat. I continue to surround myself with people who know much more, and I learn from them all the time. In fact, it reminds me of there is a company called HARO, right? It's an acronym for Help a Reporter Out. And it's just a bunch of reporters that are always looking for stories. And their logo or their tagline is everyone is an expert in something. So I'm learning just like you do, and I might have started a few years earlier, but you're catching on at a rapid velocity. So anyway, my name is Valerie Heffron. I'm thrilled to be here. This is nothing more than an idea that I had a few years ago, and because of Tommy D kind of nudging me in the right direction, saying, look, you're passionate about this, you love this, you can't get enough about talking about the animals and the laws that need to change to improve animal welfare. Let's get it on a podcast, and let's talk about both businesses and professionals who are out there doing things to help the animals, as well as great organizations, charities, advocacy groups, rescue organizations that are really boots on the ground, making real impacts. And we're going to create this overwhelmingly compassionate network, because I'm banking on the fact that there's a lot more people like Tommy DeMisa out there who want to know this and who are going to get more and more involved. Like, you get sucked in, the more that you know, the more that you want to know. So without any further ado, I wanted to introduce this gentleman I consider him to be a friend. He's certainly a great leader, and he has created an incredible organization that is just spreading, compassion and humanity and awareness all throughout Long Island. And I have a feeling he's got even bigger visions coming up. So I believe I met him at a circus protest in Oceanside, New York, about 7 years ago, something ish like that. And I'm always thrilled when I show up to a protest or something and he's there. So this is my dear friend John DiLeonardo of Lion, which stands for Long Island Orchestrating for Nature. Hi, John.
Hi,
Hey, John.
Val. Hey, Tommy. Thanks so much to both of you for having me on.
Yeah, no, of course. I mean, we're thrilled to have you and quite honored, actually. And one of the things I really want to kind of jump into is the fact that, I mean, I have met tons of animal advocates. I'm sure obviously you do too. And whether you're meeting them at a municipal meeting or standing shoulder to shoulder at a protest or whatever, Facebook, you are really incredibly educated and qualified to speak to these issues. So can you just give us a little bit about your background?
Yeah. Well, I like to think of myself as a perpetual student. I really like what Tommy had to say about, being the dumbest person in the room. I think there's never too much school. There's never too much we can learn. So I've dedicated myself quite a bit to learning about these issues so I can speak well at these meetings. So I have my bachelor's in psychology. I've always wanted to help the group that needed the most help in the world. So when before I learned about the plight for the animals, I actually worked in the field of people with special needs, a group that actually was exploited in the circus long before animals. So I have my bachelor's in psychology, and then when I graduated with that degree, I went on to Canisius College, where I earned my master's degree in anthrozoology. I also have my my New York State wildlife rehabilitation license and my state NUCO license, which is basically your trapper's license. And I'm currently in school for ornithology as well.
Okay, so hold on a second. You just said something interesting. State what? State NUCA? What was it?
NUCO license. NUCO, it's the Nuisance Wildlife Control Operator license. I don't like to refer to any wildlife as nuisance, though. I mean, we're really the nuisance out there.
Right, well, that's true.
I
That is
saw,
very true.
Val, let me, if I could jump in one sec. I saw something and I don't know who put this on Facebook, but I, as soon as I saw it, I was like, I got to tag Valerie on this. But now, I got to get John to see. But it was like, um, how was it? It was a bunch of deer in somebody's front yard. And it was like the deer were saying, like, you're on our property, like
Uh-huh.
to the homeowner. And I sort of
Right,
got a kick out of that because, like it, they were there first, kind of, right?
right.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So that's interesting. I had never heard of that before, but I also a lot of times when I hear trapping, I think of cat trappers because it's such,
Mhm.
I think, popular and more um, prevalent designation, if you will. But for anyone who might be interested in also obtaining that type of designation, where do they go? How do they do it?
It's just a state test. It's actually an open book test you can take through the DEC. Typically, it's the license that exterminators have to exterminate mammals and
Uh,
birds in New
mm,
York State. But I think there needs to be more animal lovers that do take that test and do go into that program and learn how to humanely exclude animals from homes
yeah.
without killing them.
Right, like raccoons or possums or anything that people call the pest control companies for, the like vermin. I'm
Absolutely.
I'm seeing a lot more people, at least on social media, like posting pleas for help. Like, there's a possum that got in my garage or something, and I really don't want it to be killed. Can anybody help me? And then they'll tag people like you. you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, I think that's a good sign. But let's get back to Lion. Let's talk about the vision and the mission of Lion. Like, what is, so if I'm in Baldwin, New York, where I used to live, and I hear about Lion orchestrating for nature, that sounds great. What does that mean if I want to volunteer or something? What am I actually going to be doing?
Sure. Yeah. Well, Lion, we're the leading animal advocacy organization on Long Island and also the leading farmed animal rescue. We rescue lots of chickens and ducks and other animals from abandonment, from neglect. We bring injured wildlife to licensed and reputable wildlife rehabilitators for treatment and release back to the wild. And we treat, foster, and put up for adoption domestic animals like domestic ducks and chickens. Speaking of Baldwin, we actually rescued over 100 domestic ducks that were abandoned in Baldwin just last year. A lot of people will get little ducklings at Easter and use them as photo props or put them in Easter baskets and give them away as gifts. They do the same thing with chicks and bunnies. Unfortunately, after the holiday, we get lots of calls about them being abandoned to the wild, and these animals don't survive. I mean, domestic ducks, they have tiny wings and large bodies. They were bred for the farming industry, and farmers don't want their animals flying away. They want them to stay on the property. They want them to be docile. So they've basically bred out all their natural instincts and bred disease into these animals, so they can't survive in the wild.
So John, I want to ask you right away, because I see that being a problem, but what's the solution? Can you take those baby chicks that are going to turn into chickens? Can you give them to farmers? Like where do they end up? Because obviously from the humane side of what you're doing here is you're not just getting rid of these animals. You're finding places for them. So let's play that out. So somebody gives bunny and a chick to their kids because it's cute. Why else, right? So it's cute. And then they're like, we didn't really want to have a pet bunny or a pet chicken. Although I have plenty of friends who have pet chickens and that they get eggs from, and maybe we could talk about that too. And in fact, I think Val had chickens in the past, right? I think you did, Val, didn't you?
No comment.
Oh, no comment. We didn't have chickens. No, we didn't. Look don't worry
No,
about
I'm
it.
only kidding. It's fine. I did. I had 4 hens. Yes.
All right, so hens. So but now you gotta explain what the difference is between a chicken and a hen, John. So we're gonna be here all day. We're
A
gonna
hen
have
and a rooster. A hen and a rooster.
I know, but so a chicken is the animal, but then a hen is the female and the rooster is the male.
Correct.
You got
But
it.
the family of chicken. Fair?
Yes.
All right, cool. All right, so I'm literally in 3 stories at the same time. So I need to unwind the sentences to get back to the original question. Welcome to, you think it's difficult, Val? Try being inside my head. Okay, you think it's difficult being my friend? Try being me. So John, so what do? Okay, I got this little bunny and I got this gonna be a chicken. It's a chick. Where do they go?
Yeah. It's unfortunately there aren't a lot of homes. It's very difficult to place these animals. I mean, sanctuaries are filled to the brim. Our municipal restrictions in the suburbs of Long Island prevent a lot of people from legally keeping these animals. I mean, I consider Lion first and foremost an animal advocacy organization. We rescue hundreds of animals every year, but really we need to get to the root of the problem. We need to stop people from getting these chicks and these bunnies and these ducklings in the first place. I mean, animals aren't photo props. They're not gifts. These are thinking, feeling animals just like a dog or a cat. And just like you wouldn't dump a dog or a cat on the street after a holiday, and you wouldn't, gift a whole bunch of them to your niece or your nephew at the holidays, you shouldn't do that with any animal.
Right. Yeah, a friend of mine is a teacher, and I remember when you were a kid and you had those eggs that were under the red light, they were incubating and they were turn them every day. And it was super exciting as a kid when they hatched, and it was like, woo, but then when you find out, like, but then what, right? No one actually ever finds out what happens to all of those babies. And
so we're gonna find out, Val. John's gonna tell us what happens to them when we come back. Let's tease everybody. We're gonna come back. We're gonna do a quick break. But what I want to ask, tell us what happens to them. And then also, I just wonder, how do we, John, we're not going to solve this in like 26 minutes with 3 commercial breaks like you do on a sitcom. But I want to know like your vision for how big your organization can get to make the ultimate impact and help these animals. So we will be back. We're teasing you. We're going to tease you guys to come back. 90 seconds. This is the professionals and Jovi's here. Now we're not going to break. Pause on the break. Sorry, Sam Leibowitz on the other side of the glass. Hey, Jovi. Welcome to the show, Jove. How are you, bud?
He started at me. I don't know if you heard it. He was.
I didn't hear him say anything.
Not on the show.
Oh, who's that? See, we're off the rails now. John, who's that?
This is Saul. We rescued him on a rooster rescue recently. Didn't get the rooster, but we got ourselves a cat.
We got a cat out of the deal. All right, Saul or Soul?
Saul.
Saul. All right, Saul and Jovi, Valerie and John and Tommy D. We'll be back in 90 seconds. Keep the animals here so we can talk to them when we get back. We'll be right back. This is PALS.
Are you a business owner? Do you want to be a business owner? Do you work with business owners? Hi, I'm Stephen Fry, your small and medium-sized business or SMB guy, and I'm the host of the new show, Always Friday. While I love to have fun on my show, we take those Friday feelings of freedom and clarity to discuss popular topics on the minds of SMBs today. Please join me and my various special guests on Friday at 11 a.m. on talkradio.nyc.
Are you a conscious co-creator? Are you on a quest to raise your vibration and your consciousness? I'm Sam Leibowitz, your conscious consultant. And on my show, The Conscious Consultant Hour, Awakening Humanity, we will touch upon all these topics and more. Listen live at our new time on Thursdays at 12 noon Eastern Time. That's The Conscious Consultant Hour, Awakening Humanity, Thursdays, 12 noon on talkradio.nyc.
Are you interested in having a better relationship with yourself, others, and God? Greetings. I'm your host, Dr. George Andow, for the show A Journey Through into Awareness. On my show, we journey into the awareness that the mind of God is the true seat of our personal consciousness. We join together each Monday at 7 p.m., so tune in on Talk Radio NYC.
You're listening to Talk Radio NYC. Uplift, educate, empower.
We're back, everybody unmuted. Awesome. So, all right, we were talking about what happens to the baby chicks from all of those classrooms that were born basically just to, showcase a very fun, I will say, a very fun and very cute science experiment. It was all about learning about, what happens with eggs and how they turn into baby chicks, but what happens to the chicks after?
Yeah, that's an excellent question. A lot of times people don't think that far, so they'll send them back with students. I mean, my wife, she got the class duck when she was a kid, and they didn't know, they weren't prepared, for this duck. The duck was imprinted on them because he had been raised around children. He didn't really know he was a duck, so they actually sent him to a pseudo rescue. They thought it was a good place for him, but a couple years later, they ended up getting raided by PETA, and it was not such a good ending. I mean, my wife, she comes from a great family. They meant well, but there's not many happy endings for these animals from hatching projects. The many schools will actually send the little chicks or ducklings back to the hatchery where they got the eggs from at the end of the project. But what they don't realize is these chicks, either they're raised for their meat and then killed, or more often they're killed as soon as they get back to the hatchery, often by being ground up alive in a machine called a macerator, because they don't want to risk any contagions from the schools infecting their flock back at the farm. So, I mean, obviously, we're not teaching.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah, a lot of people don't. So obviously, we're not teaching children valuable lessons this way. I think the more valuable lesson is to teach children humane education and teach them why animals don't belong in classrooms. I mean, we have so many virtual resources now. I mean, where you can learn on a computer about hatching and without harming any animals. You can also do school trips to animal sanctuaries where they can meet these animals in a better setting without stressing them, without harming them. Another outcome for these animals is abandonment to the wild, just like I was talking about in Baldwin. We saw a huge influx of birds abandoned last year during the pandemic because a lot of people did home hatching projects and they didn't have a plan for the birds after. So they were just abandoning chickens in sumps, ducklings and waterways. And that's why we had to rescue over 100 in Baldwin alone, just in Baldwin Harbor.
I've seen so many of your posts and pictures and Newsday articles, and was Baldwin also where, I can't remember, where was the duck that you were able to catch with the net that had actually someone shot it with an arrow? I don't know if that's the right term, but somebody shot this waterfowl with like a crossbow.
Yeah, we rescued a goose at Mill Pond in Wantaw. Actually, we rescued him, I think, in Belmore, but yeah, from Mill Pond in Wantaw, one of the waterways over there. And yeah, he was difficult. He took about 3 or 4 days for us to catch him. We were just lucky, that there was someone who fed the geese regularly in the backyard, and we got a call. We had been trying to catch her for many days prior, but he, actually, I think it was the male. So he was very injured. Him and his partner wouldn't come up for food. They were just, he couldn't even eat because the arrow had actually been it was through his esophagus, and it was literally through the back and came out the front. But we were able to catch him in someone's backyard with the net gun. The net actually, a net gun is like it looks like a large flashlight. You push a button and it bursts a whole CO2 canister, so it shoots a large net out. I was a little worried that because of the position of the arrow, that the net was going to get stuck on it and wouldn't be able to reach the ground. And my worries were kind of correct, because while it prevented him from flying, it didn't prevent him from gliding or running. So he actually glided right down a hill. So I had to run in after him, and I jumped into the water in Mill Pond and ended up swimming. We got him, and he was actually released 3 weeks later. So Volunteers for Wildlife did the rehabilitation. They're another wonderful organization.
So if people wanted to volunteer with you and everything, is this like the kind of activity that they could expect, like strap on some waders and get ready to jump in the water, because that's sometimes what it takes?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, if you want to get down and get dirty, volunteer with Lion. We're constantly, in sumps and waterways rescuing birds. Yeah, Tom.
It's just funny, because if I knew a guy that was currently on an initiative or campaign of doing 60 days of service for nonprofits, I would tell him to call you up and say, hey, wait a minute, I know a guy. So John, I said this to you last night when we were all talking, but we've before you and I ever knew of each other, I knew about you, and I have this vision of me throwing on a pair of waders and getting out there and helping you. So I will do that when you, not just to give me a day of service, man, put me to work. Let's make something happen. People pay attention to what I'm doing, which, is good for me, because I like people watch what I'm doing, but also it's, but it's good for the organizations, because it shines a light on the work the organizations is doing. So what I'm saying to you is, plug me in, coach. I'm ready to play, man. Put me in the game. So I'll get the waders. I'll do the whole thing. We'll go out and save some animals. All kidding aside, I'm all in to do that with you. What I want to understand, though, is first, you mentioned another organization just now that helped you rescue this animal. Do us a favor. If somebody goes out to their yard and sees an animal that is in need, specifically waterfowl is really correct me if I'm wrong, really that's your wheelhouse, so to speak. But how do they get in touch with you, or how do they even know? Like if I see, a couple of ducks walking down my street, well, I don't know why they'd be walking down my street, but if I see them there, who do I call? Is it a John thing? Is it is it the other organization just mentioned? I guess it's certainly not like animal control, or correct me if I'm wrong, maybe it is animal control. So where do we go if I see a couple of ducks?
Yeah, it's a great question. Well, if you're located in, first of all, we should determine what kind of animal it is. It really varies. I mean, even depends on what kind of ducks. because like I said, the wild ducks you see outside, they're typically small. You know, we have our mallard ducks, then we have our migratory ducks, like our buffleheads and our wood ducks, very small varieties of ducks. Then you get into, and very well camouflaged ducks. Then you get into your domestic ducks. They're typically like very large, 2, 3, maybe 4 times the size of a wild duck. And they have those tiny wings. They have basically no camouflage, often at least. Sometimes you get ones with similar to the wild coloring, but the size is very different. But often, while the domestic ducks will be, let's say, a white color. Pekin ducks are one of the most commonly abandoned ducks, and they're pretty much the most susceptible to illness, injury, and predation of any domestic breed. So there is no such thing as a white duck in the wild naturally. It's just not a good color for them. They're easily spotted by predators.
Right.
Not to be confused with swans. There are obviously mute swans, which are white, trumpeter swans, which are white. But when you're talking about ducks, the smaller waterfowl, there's no such thing as a white duck in the wild. Those are Pekin ducks. Those are the ones that people usually eat. So if you see one of those, you should contact Lion at humanelongisland.org. You could email me at john@humanelongisland.org as well, and try to get that guy help. Definitely stay with him as long as you can, especially if he's injured or like sick, because if you leave and then call someone, he may not be there when you get back. He may be dead or missing. And you know, then you feel bad, then you know, the animal feels very poor. So it's always best to stay with an injured or ill animal until help arrives. We obviously respond very quickly all the time. I think the other goose that you may have thinking in Baldwin, Valerie, we rescued a goose in Baldwin last year as well that had a fireworks duct taped to his chest.
Yes.
So, yeah, so we got a call about
that's
that.
right, because that was right behind my old house. Silver,
Yeah.
right? Yep.
Yep, Silver Lake. We were out there within 10 minutes to
Wow.
save that.
I will say this, your response time is incredible. I remember once, and I thought it was a long shot, this young lady, actually, Tommy, I think at the time she was working for your brother's mortgage company. But anyway, this young lady in Baldwin at the time stumbled upon an injured squirrel, and she was, you know, hysterical crying, and she wrapped it up in a towel and she took it inside. She's like, I don't know what to do. So she reaches out to me, which is kind of funny, because this is the thing too, Tommy, you could just shoot it out there and people will find the right person for you. You came to mind, John, and before I knew it, they were he was like, give me her number. And that's how it goes. That's one of the most incredible parts of that world of animal advocates and lovers, is that, you know, we may not be the right person, but come hell or high water, we're going to find the right person who can help, you know?
Yeah. And I mean, isn't that just the power of connecting in general? But then you get deeper into this community, as you're sharing with me, and you have been sharing leading up to the launch of the show, is these people want to help out. I don't know why I have to say this right now, but I feel like I'm thinking you're talking about animals and I'm thinking about squirrels. Have you guys ever seen a chipmunk?
Oh yeah. Yeah, we
Oh
got
my God.
chickens. Yeah, all over.
Why are they like, it's like, I mean, they're so tiny, and there's like 1 or 2 by my house, and I don't get
It's so cute.
no, yeah, but we see squirrels all the time. But holy cow, chipmunks are like, I don't know if they're nice or not, but they just look like they're nice. They look like so cute and they're so nice. And I don't see them a lot, so when I see them, it's a very special thing for me. This is how my mind works. I just started thinking about chipmunks. So I would, you know, like, all kidding aside though, that probably not a good house pet to have, a chipmunk. That's a wild animal, right, John? You wouldn't want to
Well,
keep one in.
correct. Yeah, I mean, wild animals belong in the wild,
Right.
which brings us to circuses, which I think we can talk about a little bit
Yeah.
after break.
Let's do that. We are going to go to break. So why don't we do that? Why don't we just go to break, talk about circuses? John is going to school us on what circuses have done to animals over the years and how he's made a real impact into protecting these animals. Listen, we didn't even get to dive too much into this last night because I kept saying, I got a million questions for you, but let's save them for the show. But like, I want to even know like how you got like aware and keyed into that whole thing. So we will be back. I'm Tommy D. That's Valerie and Jovi. And that's John. And where's Saul, John? Did Saul left?
Oh, Saul's here sleeping.
All right. Can we have Saul back when we come back in a minute? Can he?
Yeah.
Oh my God! Look at that! Look at that cat! Oh my God!
Beautiful
look
cat.
Look at those eyes. Oh my God.
Yeah,
Oh my God.
beautiful.
All right. We're screwing up breaks all day here on PALShow, but we'll be back in 90 seconds. Thank you, John. Thank you, Valerie. See you guys right back.
I am Joseph Franklin McElroy, host of the new podcast, Gateway to the Smokies. It airs on talkradio.nyc every Tuesday night from 6 p.m. to 7. Every episode is dedicated to memorable experiences in the Great Smoky Mountains National Park and surrounding areas. This show features experts and locals who expound upon the richness of culture, history, and adventure that awaits you in the Smokies. Tune in every Tuesday from 6 p.m. to 7 on talkradio.nyc.
Are you a cannabis enthusiast, a cannabis professional, or interested in entering the cannabis space? I'm Johnny Tsunami, and this is Planet Baco Lolo, a less taboo view. On our show, we will discuss the cannabis world through the perspective of various cannabis professionals. Tune in every Thursday evening, Eastern Standard Time, 6 p.m., Talk Radio NYC, Planet Baco Lolo, a less taboo view.
Are you passionate about the conversation around racism? Hi, I'm Reverend Dr. TLC, host of the Dismantle Racism Show, which airs every Thursday at 11 a.m. Eastern on talkradio.nyc. Join me and my amazing guests as we discuss ways to uncover, dismantle, and eradicate racism. That's Thursdays at 11 o'clock a.m. on talkradio.nyc.
Are you a small business trying to navigate the COVID-19 related employment laws? Hello, I'm Eric Sauver, employment law, business law attorney, and host of the new radio show, Employment Law Today. On my show, we'll have guests to discuss the common employment law challenges business owners are facing during these trying times. Tune in on Tuesday evenings from 5 p.m. to 6 p.m. Eastern Time on talkradio.nyc.
You're listening to Talk Radio NYC at www.talkradio.nyc, now broadcasting 24 hours a day.
So this is Tommy D. This is the PALShow, the Professionals Animal Lovers Show. We have so many guests today. We have Saul, who's here, and John, and Jovi shows up all the time, and Valerie is obviously here. Before we even jump back into, I want to ask about the picture we just shared on Facebook. So we got to talk about that, because anytime people can dress up with silly costumes and put animal heads on is a party I should have been invited to, and I regret that I wasn't invited to. So in fact, last week on my show, the other show, what do I call that show again? That's called Philanthropy and Focus. Oh, it's like on my shirt. So on that show, I had my friend Mara James, and she runs an organization around mental health with children, and they have a mascot called Piggy Bear, and I'm like, dude, I need that costume. So it's like a giant piggy bear. Now it's all love, John. It's just a costume. No animals will be hurt. And all right, so I just want to set that, and all of our listeners on this show, I promise you, it's just a costume. All right, I'm not exploiting any animals. More, I'm probably exploiting myself. But that's a costume I'm going to wear. I want to hear about the cat that you rescued, but I want to just read one quick thing before we do that, so everybody knows who's here. So Lion is a leading animal advocacy organization on Long Island, having stopped massacres of thousands of deer, hundreds of geese, having stopped slaughterhouses and aquariums and wild animal acts and rodeos at venues from New York City to Greenport, Long Island. It's a direct rescue organization as well as animal advocacy that has saved hundreds of wild and farmed animals every year from slaughter. I mean, John, real quick, let's talk about the heads on those animals that we just saw on Facebook. If you're listening to the show and you're not listening on Facebook, you got to watch the show on Facebook, because you'll see some of the shenanigans that goes on. But tell us about that. And then I do have a question about, so again, back to the waiters and me wearing waiters one day on a day of service. I knew about you one day because I called you. Shout out to my friend Katie McGowan, founder, executive director of Horseability, because Val texted me one day and she's like, I don't know, man. Barney the Bull is like loose on Long Island and he escaped. and like we need to help them. And I'm like, of course we need to help them because what was I doing? I was like trying to run businesses. So let's forget all that. So I call my buddy Katie and I'm like, dude, he's like, call everybody, dude. I'm like, dude, I need I need horseability horses. You probably have like horse gates. Like I need them. And I finally get this guy, John DiLeonardo, on the phone. I'm like, dude, you don't even know me, man, but I got these horse gates for you. And he's like, brother, I'm all set. It was, I don't know if you called it brother. It was like one of those things. So I'm ranting. I'm all over the map. But how is Barney? What's up with the heads of that you guys had on in that photo? It was like an elephant head and what else was it? Was it a giraffe? I forgot already. Was it a lion? Tell me what it was.
Elephant.
It was an elephant, but it was an elephant and something else because I
And a
can't see.
lion.
It was an elephant and a lion. All right, cool. All right. Well, I asked you 17 questions, John. Pick one.
Sure. We'll start with Barney. Barney the bull. For those listeners who don't know who Barney is, he was a bull that escaped an animal sacrifice during Eid about 2 months ago. So he was actually on the lam for about 2 months, a little over 2 months actually, and 2 weeks ago he finally decided to come into a baited pen, and now he's in a vegan animal sanctuary with over 90 other cows, where he'll be loved and never eaten.
Wow.
But it was quite the endeavor to get him.
Yeah.
I mean, he ran for his life just like you or I would, if someone was trying to slaughter us. Throughout this whole process, I mean, we were in the woods with night vision goggles and tranquilizers and net guns and all that.
Wow.
And there were a lot of people like Tommy offering us their assistance, which is much appreciated. But everyone kept asking me, how can I help? How can I help? How can I help? And what I kept telling people is, if you want to help bulls like Barney, it's very easy. You can simply just go vegan. By taking animals off your plate, you save nearly 200 animals every single year.
Whoa, hold
not consuming them.
Hold on, Johnny D. Hold on a second, pal. So if we were to stop eating meat, how many animals get saved?
Nearly 200.
One person.
Yep. Meat, dairy, and eggs. Not just meat though. If you want, it's about 100 if you eat meat, and then you add another 100 on there by getting rid of all the other animal products.
Wow, Val, did you know that?
I feel like I've heard that stat before, but if you think about it, look, it makes sense because a typical average person, when they're going to eat a meal, it usually contains some version of protein, such as, yogurt or eggs for breakfast. And then you have meat lunches. And even if you get a salad will have shrimp or chicken on it, etc. So if you're having, let's just say conservatively, 2 meals a day that have some type of animal product in it, and the third one is, whatever, cereal with almond milk or something like that. So that's 2 meals a day, 365 days a year. That's a lot of animals. Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, think of when you go to a Super Bowl party, how many little wings that you eat in just one sitting.
Yeah, and not to be funny or gross or anything, but like animals only, a chicken only has so many wings. That's an awful lot of chicken when you eat 25, 30 wings or something like that, in a sitting. And when you I grew up in the bar business, and there was a lot of buffalo wings in the bar, man. That's a lot of baby chickens. Wow. Those reality, 200 animals. Wow.
Yeah. And what people don't realize is all the animals that we consume in our society, they're all babies. Not just those little chicken wings, every single one of them. We're talking about, for chickens, between 6 and 8 weeks. When you get to the larger animals, they're only a few months. So these are all babies that are on our plate. And then when you get into the dairy industry and the egg industry, I mean, those are some of the worst. I mean, cows are just like every other mammal. They only produce milk when they're pregnant and then shortly thereafter for the baby, and only enough for the baby. So the dairy industry, we actually take the baby away from that mother, tear them from the mother as a baby, and then sell them to the veal industry so we can consume that milk. For the egg industry, we're actually, I mean, well, think about when you hatch a bunch of eggs, you're going to have some roosters, you're going to have some hens. Like we're talking about the difference between chickens. Yeah. Male chickens are roosters, female chickens are hens. So in the egg industry, what happens to all the male roosters? they don't have much meat on them because we actually have bred certain varieties of chickens for their meat and others for eggs. So the egg laying chickens that are male, we actually ground up those babies alive or we suffocate them when they're only 1 day old. So a lot of people don't realize that. I mean, I think people are inherently good, but factory farms hide this. The industry hides these facts from people. But when we know better, we can do better. So as hard as it is to listen to these facts, I mean, if they're bothering you, I encourage everyone, you can reach out to us at humanelongisland.org and ask us how to get started. And we're happy to, guide you in the right direction. I mean, I do most of my shopping at ShopRite, at Stop and Shop. It's never been easier to go vegan.
So what do you mean you can help? So I think I know what you mean. Education wise, you can help. You're saying like if somebody's distraught by listening to this and they want an answer, you're not just saying, hey, figure it out. You're going to provide solutions. Do you do education or training or classes even on like, here's what you're going to replace? You want to get rid of the chicken? Like as I'm hearing you talk protein, I'm thinking quinoa is like awesome and has like a ton of like protein. It's like one of those super grains and stuff like that. So, but I think, look, whether people are brainwashed or whatever, people say, oh, you have to eat meat. But John, there's plenty of, and Forks Over Knives, I think we brought that up last week. There's a lot of movies and docs, and perhaps you could direct us to some of that as well to see how there are alternatives, and there's plenty. Was Forks Over Knives, if you've seen it, was that the one where these athletes are like shredded and like in incredible shape and like
that's the Game Changers, I think.
Yep. Which one is it? Game Changers?
Yeah, that's the Game Changers. But
peak performance, like they're like awesome athletes, and they don't eat meat.
Right.
Yep.
Right.
Bodybuilders, NFL players. I mean, I'll tell you, it's from my experience. I mean, when I first went vegan, I mean, I was the first vegetarian I knew. I was the first vegan I knew. I just knew I didn't want to harm animals. So I didn't know what I was doing. I ate a lot of salads and a lot of tofu. I mean, this was 13 years ago anyway. We don't have the options that we have nowadays. I thought, I was going to get scrawny and weak and, that was just going to be my sacrifice for the animals. When it was actually the opposite. I actually worked sanitation when I was in college during summer breaks, and the first summer I was eating meat and I was working out all the time. Job was hard. Second summer I stopped working out. I was living that college party life, but I had stopped eating meat. The job was easier. Third year I'm still living that party life, but I was vegan and I'm just working out after work now. I'm running.
Oh, it was the alcohol. No, only kidding.
Oh no, I was still drinking alcohol. I just got rid of the dairy. And it did wonders for my health as well as the animals.
I to Tommy's point, I do think that one of a really positive support vehicles is when, like, a friend of mine just told me that there's a guy I know from Long Beach. I cannot believe he went vegan. He was one of the biggest carnivores I've ever known. And he watched the movie The Game Changers, and he actually knew one of the people in there. So he decided to try it for 30 days, and he's still saying he's never felt better. So the point is that a friend of his came over for dinner, and he made her some meatballs using mostly, I think, mushrooms or something like that. But being able to have the knowledge of how, like, if you have a craving, and you want pizza or whatever, or you want a burger, that's a better example. You're craving a cheeseburger. Like when I went to Joanne Wincart's house and she had that vegan barbecue and I tried a Beyond Burger for the first time in my life, I was blown away. I could not believe that it was meatless. I still can't. We have them all the time now because they're delicious.
Listen, how about shout out? We should get them on the show. We should probably get them to sponsor the show. Do you know Dr. Prager's, the Dr. Prager's burgers, man? I mean, I don't know if they're super healthy. I know there's no meat in them, but they're delicious. And
you can get those at White Castle.
Yeah, listen, if I find myself at White Castle, I'm probably not going like Beyond or Dr. Prager's. I'm just going for the belly bombers. But I don't find myself at a White Castle at this point in my life.
We definitely have to get back though to the elephant head. I know.
Yeah, we do. Yeah, and we got to go to a break too, Val. Take us to a break, Valerie. And then we'll come back.
Okay, so coming back, we're going to talk about the lion head and the elephant head, but they get along actually in this situation, and they're actually great friends.
Hey everybody, it's Tommy D, the nonprofit sector connector, coming at you from my attic. Each week here on talkradio.nyc, I host a program, Philanthropy in Focus. Nonprofits impact us each and every day, and it's my focus to help them amplify their message and tell their story. Listen each week at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time until 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here on talkradio.nyc.
Do you feel uninformed about menopause and how it impacts on your life? Hi, I'm Pat Duckworth, women's health strategist and host of the Hot Women Rock radio show, empowering women leaders at menopause. Join me every Thursday at 10 a.m. Eastern Time, 3 p.m. UK time on talkradio.nyc for interviews with inspirational women who will share their top tips to rock your world.
Have you ever thought of reinventing yourself? Are you looking to create a new life's journey? Hi, I'm Kevin Barbaro, host of Coffee Talk XL every Tuesday night live, 8 p.m. Eastern on talkradio.nyc. Tune in live to hear me and my guests from a variety of different backgrounds. As a former college coach and a current full-time actor and owner of multiple companies, my show is as eclectic as my life. That's Coffee Talk XL every Tuesday night, 8 p.m. on talkradio.nyc.
You're listening to Talk Radio NYC at www.talkradio.nyc. Now broadcasting 24 hours a day.
Okay, we're back, we're unmuted, and we're talking about, well, when I met John, I think this was the protest when we met, and there are some friends I'll just do anything for. So when my dear friend Joanne, our mutual friend Joanne Winkhart, asked me to accompany her to an anti-circus protest in Oceanside, and I was living there, I was like, sure, Joanne, anything for you. And by the way, what's this all about? So while we were there, you know, it was really cool. There were people who had some costumes, and I think we really got the message out, because eventually that circus, the Cole Brothers Circus, no longer came to town.
Yeah, not just didn't come to town, but they actually closed up shop all around the country now. They yeah. I mean, we started protesting them, you know, in our early days. That was actually after an Oceanside protest. It might have actually been that one you're talking about, Valerie. That was when we founded Lion. Wow. You know, we actually were, and it wasn't even me that said, let's start a group. I was leading the protest, and it went so well. We saw thousands of dollars going out of the circuses' pockets that, you know, all these first-time protesters said, this is amazing. You know, it's so empowering. You know, we have to do this more often. We have to do this for other issues. And they said, let's start a group. And I said, okay, great. Who's in charge? And everyone looked at me. So I guess, okay.
I will say this, seeing you in action is truly impressive, because you know, you're really educated, and you speak to people in a wonderful way that's intelligent and evokes curiosity. And I really want to mention this, because as an advocate, and John, we've talked about this too a little bit, but you know, if you want something from people, it's not really an effective approach to try to bash them over the head with your desired outcome or your message. And I see that a lot, unfortunately, you know, in this world, that people, and I understand the anger, because it's so frustrating when you know animals are suffering and you're trying to help and you want everyone to see what you see. But, you know, a lot of times it's not the content, it's the delivery. And I remember that day there was a family approaching, they were going to take their children to go see the circus. And you stopped, can I talk to you? My name is so-and-so, here's my background. Your background is very impressive. And they turned around. That was a real moment. I was like, wow, you know, and I'm just saying though, the approach is so important.
Absolutely. I think finding common ground with people and meeting them where they are is very important. I mean, one of the people who was actually saying, "Hey, let's start this group. Let's," one of the people at the protest saying, "Let's start Lion." He was actually a hunter during that time, when he said that.
Wow.
I was vegan. He was a hunter. He wasn't even supposed to be at the protest, but I went to pick up my friend Mark. They've been playing basketball. And I said, "Hey, what are you doing? Get in the car." He was going to leave Mark's house. And he said, "Oh, no, I'm a hunter. I don't protest." And I said, "Okay, so you're a hunter. So that means you're okay with beating elephants with bullhooks?" And he said, "No, that's messed up." And I said, "Yeah, it's messed up. Get in the car." And he did.
Nice.
He came
That's
out
what I
every single
mean.
night after, protested with us. And then he was one of those people, one of the founding members. A few months later, he went vegetarian. A year later, he went vegan.
Oh, and does he no longer hunt?
No, yeah, he's totally vegan now. He's an animal advocate.
That is amazing.
That's an incredible story, but I want to go back because I have to play Johnny Naive on this show. I don't get it. No, I don't mean I don't get it, but like why circuses have been around for so many years. Like not for me to go, "Oh, it's obvious that they're mistreated." Tell me, John, bring the pain, baby. Bring the pain so people know what exactly happened. Why should I not be going to a circus?
Yeah, well, it's talking about elephants. I mean, simple. The most simple thing is, I mean, wild animals belong in the wild. They don't belong in boxcars. They don't belong doing unnatural contortions on stage, and they, and they don't, they need acres and acres to roam, many miles to roam. Just rocking back and forth in a boxcar is not a life for any animal. But if that neglect and that, that level of keeping them from their natural abilities wasn't bad enough, they're beaten, they're electroshocked. There's a tool called a bullhook. Really, I should call it a weapon called a bullhook. It looks like a large fireplace poker. If you've ever been to the circus, I'm sure you've seen it and didn't realize what it was. Anytime you ever see an elephant in the circus, you'll always see his trainer holding a long pole. Sometimes it'll have tassels on the end to disguise it, but it has a hook and a spike on the top. And that is used to beat the elephants and beat them into submission to make them perform. You're not going to see them typically beating them on stage, because who would go to the circus if that's what you were going to witness? But that is there to remind that animal of the beatings that occurred behind the scenes. So obviously, if you walk up to a grown elephant and you just start, waving a weapon around, he's probably going to run away, or if he can't run away, he's going to step on you. But they do this to them when they're babies. I mean, as soon as they're born, they separate them from their mothers and they chain them on the opposite ends of the barn to break their spirit, so they can see each other but can't touch one another. And then after a few months, they bind them in with ropes and heavy metal chains. And they beat them with this bullhook and often use electric prods and tasers on them as well. But with that bullhook, always front and center. So the elephant learns to fear that bullhook. So when they see it, they have like a post-traumatic stress response and they do whatever that trainer says. So it's the same thing that goes with many animals. I mean, we had Brookhaven Fair and the Northport Fair used to have something called the Banana Derby, where they had monkeys chained by their necks to dogs running around in a circle. I mean, it's horrific. But you look in the monkeys' mouths, the monkeys didn't even have teeth. They had pulled all their teeth out to take away their natural defenses. So, I mean, the simple message is animals belong in the wild. Wildlife belongs in the wild, and we should keep wildlife wild. There is no right way to beat an elephant into submission or to cage a wide-ranging tiger.
What a horrible species we can be, and what a horrible black heart you must have to be the actual person, to be that trainer. I can't even call them a trainer. I remember seeing the movie Water for Elephants, which depicted a lot of the cruelties in the circus. But the truth is, I want more people to hear these horrific, inhumane stories so that they'll be awakened and want to get involved. And I need to mention this because this is just our most recent encounter, but I think John and I were at a protest together a few months ago in front of the town of Hempstead. And the reason we were there is because they gave a contract to a company that was supposed to be in charge of handling the geese population within the township humanely. And unfortunately, that person was caught by a neighbor in another town, physically abusing and trying to kill the father goose or duck. I'm so sorry, I forgot, a goose, and the geeslings, the babies, drowning them. So, you know, we all showed up to the town of Hempstead asking that they sever that contract. And I've been meaning to ask you, John, but do you have an update for us on that?
No, I don't have an update right now. They did suspend the contract. So as far as I know, it's still suspended. Whether it's going to be revoked or not, time will tell. But as long as activists like you and I are speaking up, I mean, we're going to see more and more horrible contracts being torn up.
That's right. And these are the kinds of things that, I mean, there's so many different levels. There are some people that really activate, they advocate for things via email, they make phone calls, they share posts online. And then, of course, there are people like Tommy DeMisa, who's about to strap on some waders and get out there and roll his sleeves up and save some actual waterfowl.
I'm all in, man. Sign me up.
Everybody we all can do better. We all can do more, and we can all help. So,
we
yeah,
can.
Tommy, I'm so sorry. I want you to actually get into with John. How do we help him further?
Yeah, John, really, let's do it fast. We're running out of time. So, John, how do we get into, first of all, we'll have you on my other show probably, and we'll do a video of me in the waders, and we'll put me to work, the whole deal. So, but how do they get in touch with you? What do you need? Quick, if you could.
Yeah, the best way to help us is go to humanelongisland.org and support us monetarily. Right now, we're a nonprofit, and we're trying to make some big moves. We have big rebranding coming ahead. We just got a new place in Riverhead, and we're planning to expand to a much larger place within the next year. So whatever you can help, whether that's skills, whether that's funding, whether that's volunteering, we want to hear from you at humanelongisland.org.
HumaneLongIsland.org. John DiLeonardo, thank you for being a friend of the show. Thank you for being my new friend. I'm not joking. I'm going to come out and help you. All right. And then wherever, Riverhead. I mean, yesterday I rented a van and drove a bunch of diapers around. So just put me in, man. I'm ready to do it.
Thank you.
You're welcome, man. Thank you for being here. Thank you for the work you do. And I, like I say, we'll have you back. Bring the pain. Tell us. I was trying to make this more complicated than it is, but the point is, wildlife belongs in the wild. Period. End of story. We don't even need to know about the torture and stuff like that. If we just left the species where they belong, we wouldn't have these problems, right? And in the wise words of a historical figure, I think it makes a lot of sense here to just close the show with this. This is the Professionals and Animal Lovers show. Greg DeFrancis will be on the show. I screwed up his name, I think. DeFrancis will be on the show next week from Camp Canine Jack's Beach. So he'll be here talking about canine breeding. Shout out to Florida. But here's this historical figure that talks to us about the animals. The greatness of a nation and its moral progress can be judged by the way its animals are treated. And that's Gandhi that said that. Knows a couple things about a couple things. Make it a great week. I'll see you guys later. Thanks, John. Thanks, Val. Bye, guys.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you.